It all started on a quiet winter morning, the kind where the world looks like it's been dipped in powdered sugar. My kids and I were out front, laughing, rolling giant snowballs across the lawn, building what we proudly called Frosty Jr. He wasn't just any snowman. He had a scarf my late dad used to wear and a crooked carrot nose that made him look permanently cheerful. It was our little piece of winter joy, but that joy lasted exactly 3 hours before the shrill sound of Karen's voice sliced through the cold air like a snow shovel hitting concrete. "Excuse me," she screeched, strutting across the street in her puffy jacket like she owned the neighborhood. "You can't just put that thing in your yard. It violates HOA aesthetics." I blinked, thinking she had to be joking. A snowman? Really? But nope, Karen wasn't joking. She had a clipboard, a pen, and that look people get when they've spent their whole lives making other people miserable. I tried reasoning with her. "Karen, it's a snowman. It'll melt in a week." She jabbed her pen toward Frosty Jr. "It's an unauthorized structure. You'll be fined if it's not removed by tonight." My kids looked heartbroken. I promised them I wouldn't let Karen ruin their winter fun. But deep down, I could already sense this was only the beginning. Because if there's one thing I've learned living under an HOA, once Karen sets her sights on you, she doesn't stop until someone gets buried. And not just in snow. That evening, I got the official letter. A $150 fine for temporary structure violating visual harmony. I laughed out loud at the wording. Visual harmony? It's a snowman, not a garage extension. The next day, instead of tearing Frosty down, I went the other direction. I gave him sunglasses, a pipe, and even a small sign that said, "Approved by HOA, Happiness Ordinance 101. The neighbors loved it. They laughed, took photos, and for once, everyone seemed united against Karen's nonsense. But Karen didn't find it funny. Oh no. She came storming out, pointing, shouting about mockery and disrespect. That's when something incredible happened. A loud crack echoed from across the street. Karen's fancy brick mailbox, the one she bragged was built to last, had started to tilt and then collapse. Her mouth fell open as it hit the ground in a puff of snow and dust. I swear, even Frosty Jr. seemed to be smiling wider. Karen's mailbox lay there like a fallen monument, bricks scattered, letters fluttering in the wind, and Karen frozen in disbelief. For a moment, the entire street went silent. Even the kids stopped laughing. Then little Ellie whispered, "Dad, did Frosty do that?" Honestly, it kind of looked that way. Frosty Jr. stood just across from the wreckage, arms outstretched like he was caught mid-celebration. I bit back a grin, but Karen's face said it all. She was already deciding who to blame. The next morning, I woke to pounding on my door. Karen stood there, wrapped in her signature fur-lined coat, clipboard in hand again. But this time, her smile was gone. "I know what you did," she hissed. "You sabotaged my mailbox out of spite." I blinked, still half asleep. "Karen, it literally collapsed because of the snow and ice. The whole neighborhood saw it. She didn't care. She wanted a villain, and I was it." By noon, she'd emailed the entire HOA board accusing me of retaliatory vandalism and mocking the HOA's integrity. But here's the thing about Karen. She thrives on drama. The more people watch, the louder she gets. And when she doesn't get her way, she doubles down. So, I decided to give her an audience she wouldn't expect. That evening, I posted a simple message on our community Facebook page. "Dear neighbors, apparently, my snowman caused a mailbox apocalypse. Should I fine him or promote him to neighborhood hero?" Within hours, the post blew up. Dozens of neighbors commented, sharing their own Karen stories. Fines for garden gnomes, Christmas lights, even mismatched mailboxes. Everyone had one. The tide was turning, and it wasn't in Karen's favor. But when Karen saw the post, she lost it. She showed up outside my house again, yelling about public humiliation and legal consequences. Calmly reminded her that freedom of speech still existed, even under HOA rule. That only made her angrier. Then she did something truly bizarre. She brought over a measuring tape and started measuring Frosty Jr. 7 feet tall. She barked, "This violates Section 4A. Nothing over 6 feet without prior approval." I couldn't help it. I laughed, loudly. She spun around, red-faced. "You think this is funny? You'll regret mocking me." And then, as if fate itself wanted to join in, her boots slipped on the icy driveway. Karen flailed, shrieked, and landed right in the pile of snow we'd rolled up the day before. My son whispered, "Dad, Frosty won again." I almost felt bad for her, almost. The next day, the war went official. I got a notice taped to my door, stamped, sealed, and dripping with self-importance. Mandatory show hearing, alleged violation of Section 4A, unauthorized structure and neighbor harassment. In other words, Frosty Jr. and I were going to court. HOA court. When I showed up that evening at the community hall, the room was already packed. Karen sat at the front like some self-appointed queen, papers stacked beside her and a smug grin plastered across her face. I could tell she'd been rehearsing for this moment. "Mr. Daniels," the HOA chair began, adjusting his glasses. "You've been accused of violating community standards by constructing an unsanctioned snow figure." I stared at him. "A snow figure? You mean a snowman?" Karen jumped in before he could respond. "It's not just a snowman. It's a statement, a mockery of HOA authority, and it's over regulation height." The room snickered. Even the chair coughed to hide a laugh. I placed a photo of Frosty Jr. on the table. Scarf, pipe, crooked nose, the whole thing. "This," I said, "is what she's calling a violation. He melts, for heaven's sake. The real hazard is her crumbling mailbox." Karen's face went red. "That mailbox was vandalized." "By gravity?" I shot back. "Because last I checked, it fell after you spent 10 minutes screaming at me in sub-zero weather." A few neighbors nodded. One even raised their hand to confirm it happened exactly as I said. Suddenly the tide was turning. Karen's voice started shaking. "You're all conspiring against me. This community is supposed to have standards." The chair sighed. "Karen, perhaps we're taking this a bit too far. It's a snowman." But she wasn't done. She whipped out her phone, showing photos of Frosty's sunglasses and sign. "See, he's mocking me!" she cried. At that point, the room erupted in laughter. Even the chair gave up trying to look serious. "Mrs. Walters," he said, "the HOA exists to maintain the neighborhood, not regulate humor. Mr. Daniels, you're free to keep your snowman." I couldn't resist. "Thank you, Your Honor. I'll make sure he's on his best behavior." Karen stormed out, muttering threats under her breath. But as I stepped outside, I noticed something she hadn't. Her brand new temporary mailbox, the one she'd proudly reinstalled that morning, was already leaning sideways. Maybe karma wasn't done snowballing yet. By the next morning, word had spread across the neighborhood. Karen lost the HOA hearing. For the first time in months, people smiled when they passed my house. Kids stopped to take selfies with Frosty Jr. Someone even left a tiny paper crown on his head that read, "Neighborhood Legend." But while the rest of us were laughing, Karen was plotting. She couldn't stand that she'd become the joke, the woman who tried to fine a family for building a snowman and lost. So, she decided to take matters into her own hands. That night I was watching TV when I heard crunching footsteps outside. I peeked through the blinds. And there she was, Karen bundled in a heavy coat, flashlight in one hand and shovel in the other. She was digging. At first, I thought maybe she'd lost something, but then I realized she wasn't digging. She was attacking. She was trying to destroy Frosty Jr. I grabbed my phone and quietly recorded. Every scoop of snow she threw made her angrier. She muttered under her breath about disrespect, rules, and ungrateful neighbors. It was almost sad to watch. And then karma made its final move. As she swung the shovel one last time, her boot slipped. The shovel flew out of her hand, landing hard against her own leaning mailbox. The metal post cracked, bent, and with a slow creak, the whole thing collapsed again, right on top of her foot. Karen yelped, hopping in the snow. I rushed outside, pretending to be concerned. "Karen, are you okay? What happened?" She glared at me, red-faced. "Your stupid snowman attacked me." I raised an eyebrow. "Frosty doesn't even have arms right now, Karen." The video, of course, made its way online. Within a day, half the neighborhood had seen it. Comments poured in. "Guess karma doesn't need HOA approval. Maybe her mailbox violated visual harmony. Frosty 2, Karen 0. By the weekend, Karen had stopped showing her face outside. The HOA quietly removed her from her position on the board. Stress leave, they called it. As for Frosty Jr., he didn't last much longer. The sun came out, and piece by piece he melted away. But when the last chunk of snow disappeared, I found that little paper crown lying in the grass. I picked it up, smiling. "You earned it, buddy." And from that day on, every winter, the kids and I build a new Frosty. Same scarf, same crooked nose, standing proudly by the driveway. Because no HOA rule, and definitely no Karen, can melt the joy of a good snowman. And that's how one snowman ended up teaching Karen a cold, hard lesson she'll never forget. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell icon, because trust me, the next HOA meltdown is even crazier than this one.